Back for more. The one thing, and I don't know, when I've done these streams, typically they've been in very close games. Bullpen day today, going up against Robbie Ray. Before they ever call me B.O.B., a.k.a. Robbie Ray. I'm talking back before the mixtapes, before the videos and the deals and the fame. Cannon homers twice this series. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say he homers once, but he's going to get a hit in every game.
As we get going with Major League Baseball tonight, late night baseball. So glad to have you along as the Tigers try to bounce back.
Andy Ibanez leading off versus a lefty, no surprise.
The win column is a good start to the road trip. And Robbie Ray, start number 4 this year, is met with a first pitch swing and a pop up back of home. Kurt Casale just reactivated today.
Good uniform matchup.
For Andy Ibanez and the Tigers batting order presented by your Southeast Michigan Ford dealers. Okay, this is from the desk of Austin Drake. Season OPS
on the West Coast.
Javi Baez had that massive series
in Arizona, yeah.
12:08 Pacific time.
That's funny.
OPS. Winston Perez at 9:51. Andy Ibanez just had his really damaged by that one swing. He's not going to win the Pacific Time Zone MVP anymore. I love that. That's awesome. Outstanding. Robbie Ray. This is since 2023, so he has not been on the mound a whole lot, obviously, starting the year.
Very weird career that Robbie Ray has had. At times, very dominant. I mean, the guy's got a Cy Young on his trophy case, but very inconsistent. Originally, he was actually, I think, originally drafted by the Nationals, was acquired by the Tigers after 2013. We traded Doug Fister for him. Then we traded him to Arizona. I think that was part of the Shane Green deal. And he gained like 3 miles per hour in velocity. He started throwing a lot harder. Career WAR just under career ERA just under 4. Career strikeouts per 9 of over 11. I mean, that's incredible. Had some injury issues in his career. Had Tommy John relatively recently.
Just that front foot, the way he stays in with that front side. If there's something out over the plate, you've seen him go the other way. But just stand in, just like he did right there. And I just keep thinking back to that at-bat he had on Stephen Oakland with the Twins where he hit the home run. He stayed right on until he got something on the inside part of the plate and hit it for that home run. And you might hear, everybody at home probably does hear the wind just...
Comments working?
It has been a very gusty night, as per normal here. Nobody's going to blow around the giant glove because it's pretty stationary, but the palm,
that Robbie Ray tennis grunt is going to get on my nerves tonight.
Yeah, up high too. You can see the flags just on the upper level of the scoreboard, where just above Oracle Park, where it's really blowing hard. But down more closer to field level, it's not quite as windy.
Good pitch or good swing.
Colt Keith has earned these at bats. And that's why, that's all part of the development, that A.J. Hinch just talks about. Says, you know what, I've got to see what we have here. Let's see if he can handle it. And so much so that he says, I've got faith in you. I'm going to put you in the number 3 spot. And just as we said, that high fastball, he goes the other way with it. He stayed right in there. He didn't pull off.
Yeah, they're great. God, we got Jake batting cleanup. Jesus. I mean, I know he hits lefties, but good Lord.
Especially he's way over there, and then even on right-handers, he's kind of crisscrossing because he turns his coming into those right-handed hitters. Jake Rogers in the 4 spot was reminiscing about being the cleanup hitter behind Miguel Cabrera. That was his recollection of the last time he hit cleanup. He said, Biggie and I went 0 for 8 with 7 strikeouts, so let's do better today. Says Jake to his manager, A.J. Hinch. 1-2 on Rogers from Robbie Ray with that sort of jerky delivery.
Down. Go 3. Sweet. I like that. Remember early, what are my thoughts on Batman Begins? Oh, I love Batman Begins. Yeah, I mean, you guys, you hear me talk about how Dark Knight's probably my favorite movie of all time. That whole trilogy, I think all of those movies are 9.5, 10 out of 10s. I love Begins. I think it's remarkable. Attaboy.
The typical starting catcher has been outstanding at controlling runners. Yeah, I just think that, hey, you're not going to pay any attention to me. I'm going to take off. Delicately to the outside corner for strikeout number 2. Half an inning deep, no score.
Everyone knows about our no-fee guarantee. Everyone knows the Bernstein Everyone knows the free consultation. That's why everyone knows better call Sam. After an accident.
Let me ask you, you're using Head and Shoulders, right?
Oh, I see flakes. Then I switch back to my regular shampoo.
You should use it every wash. Otherwise, the flakes will come back.
He's right.
Is that Tiny Troy?
The ingredients in Head and Shoulders keep the microbes that cause flakes out there.
Microbes, really?
They're always on your scalp.
You guys are quiet, man. What's going on?
Itchiness, dryness, and flakes down here.
I love Tiny Troy.
I mean, it's Friday night at 10 o'clock. People are probably doing other in the summer, but you know what they said. There's nothing like summer in the city.
So you can go farther. And so can your money. Tow with confidence. Plus, stay connected with available OnStar technology for summer adventures.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been getting a lot of heat lately. There's a lot about AJ that I like as a manager and will continue to like as a manager. I think he is. I give credit to managers who are analytically based and play the matchups, but I do think there are instances, prime example, Parker this evening, where he just overdoes it with that stuff. Because to me, if I have a guy who's as locked in as Parker is right now, I'm not taking him out of the lineup. He's kept Colt Keith in the lineup against a lefty tonight. Colt Keith he's been slumping lately, so I'm a little bit frustrated by that.
42% is basically all you're going to get. Marcana jumps in at 49%. And there is a first pitch swing and a fly ball foul for Lamont Wade Jr. But Bob Melvin and his team, they're hanging around in the wild card chase. It's very unlikely they win the West, but the wild card is within their sights of 3 games. That whole division, has got hot all over the Giants, the Padres.
I know very little about this Giants team. I don't. With them being a West Coast team, I don't watch a ton of them, but I know some of their pitchers. And I obviously know Matt Chapman and Canna, but their all-star Heliot Ramos, was that the guy's name? I couldn't pick him out of the lineup. That's it. In there. Got him. Yeah, perfect pitch. I had one hit. I don't think I had any RBIs. I advanced the runners. There were a lot of participants, so you only got a few at bats. But that's fine with me. I only swung and missed once, and it was on the first pitch, so it's fine. Ah, that's in there, man. Come on. Thoughts on how the trade deadline additions are doing in the minors? Yeah, so far very encouraging. Count should be 0-2, but so far very encouraging. Look, am I going to say I overreacted? TBD. More so, look, I get frustrated by the deadline because I just, and I don't, a lot of people don't do this, but I get frustrated by people who look forward or are excited about the prospect of selling. Selling is an admittance that your team isn't good. So, like, I don't, and that basically the season is over. So I liked Flaherty. I would have preferred Flaherty still be pitching here. I understand the circumstances. I'm not even saying it was a bad move. We've had to deal with 8 years of a GM who doesn't like to make trades until 5:59 when the deadline is 6 p.m. That's annoying. Now, the one thing, and I've been very consistent with this, the one thing I have said about Scott Harris that I do have faith in is I believe the player development here is significantly better than it's been in a really long time. And I think that they are, let me watch the 3-2, great fastball, swing and miss. I think that they are putting these guys in positions to succeed. So, no, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that one of these guys becomes a piece. If they do, great. I hope so, I know that there's a lot of heat on Harris, and I've put a lot of heat on Harris, but the fact is, I don't think that it is his seat isn't going to get warm until we see what the pieces that he's acquired in the draft and in trade deadlines are capable of. If 3 years from now we're looking at McGonigal and Clark and the guys they just got for Flaherty and Ty Madden, and we're saying, yeah, you know what, these guys just aren't that good, then I feel like at that point you can, it'll be safe to say he's probably going to be out of a job at some point. But they're not going to put the pressure on him from organizationally until then. Yeah, I do as well. And that was something to me I honed in on early just because I said I felt like that was going to improve quickly. Most, not all, there are exceptions. Most organizations can find a way to produce good position players. Maybe not an entire core, but at least a few here or there. Seems like he's got a pretty good fastball tonight. Right. And that's what, I mean, dude, there's so many things, but that was really one of the devastating things about the Avila era was given his inability to develop. I mean, I would argue he never acquired a ton of talent to begin with, but given his inability to develop said talent, you just felt like trades were over after they even started. I mean, you never felt like they were going to get anything from the guys they got for JD. You never felt like they were going to get anything from the guy they got for Upton. I think what is frustrating, and I'm not give it to him. It's just low. Good job by Jake framing that, but it was low. I think what is frustrating for me, and I think this is reflected with the rest of the fan base as well, is just, I mean, how many different deadlines have we gotten to and we said, okay, well, wait and see. We got to wait for these guys to develop. I think we're so, hair's going gray at this point. We're kind of sick of waiting. We want to see the future be now. And considering how long it's been, that's not like an irrational, like spoiled behavior. That's just, I think that's a healthy way of looking at it. We haven't made the playoffs in 10 years.
with 12 home runs. We've seen Tyler Moulton as an opener quite often for the Tigers, but the way Bob Melvin's team just absolutely bears
Melvin Wilson. What are we gonna do now? Great Family Guy clip is when they're parodying Castaway and Peters. Wilson! Wilson! He goes, my name is Voight, dumbass.
Makes perfect sense, Lois. You know how much time I've spent on the ocean. Wilson! What are we
We got
gonna do now? Wilson! Wilson! My name is Voight, dumbass.
That's a point, and you're correct, Devin. That's a point that I've made a million times over that I knew, and I'm frustrated by it, but I knew would bother people because Scott Harris exists on a different timeline than the fan base does. I think that if you are outside of the Detroit circle and you are just looking on the outside looking in at what Harris has done, I feel like most people would be like, okay, he's doing an okay job. He's developing something there. The problem is he inherited, and look, he knew the job was dangerous when he took it. I'm not, he's not a victim, but he inherited 6-7 years worth of bad baggage. And we were hoping for him to kind of get this thing off the ground a little bit quicker. The truth is, look, man, what I want here, I don't want to have one fluky year and then go back to being shitty. I want sustained success. I want a core that's going to last the way that Houston has lasted, the way that Baltimore is going to last, the way that Boston lasted for a long time, the way that the Cubs lasted when they had Theo Epstein. That's what I want here. And if that means waiting an extra year or two, as much as it sucks, if we're looking back in 5 years at a team that's competing for the pennant, none of us are going to care. Now, in 3 years, we're looking at a team that's still fighting for third place in the Central. Different argument. Honest question. Don't you think going out and meeting people and having fun at bars would be more enjoyable than sitting on your couch? Well, there's a couple things that kind of, there's some elements to that variables is the word I'm thinking of. On a night like tonight, I'm 29 years old. Where I'm at, there's really not a whole lot of places for late 20-somethings to just go out and chill and hang out and meet people. The only place where there's like big gatherings is in the college, East Lansing with the college crowd, and I've kind of outgrown that. And part of it too is it's much more it's very difficult for me to be social with people I don't know now that I'm sober. When I was drinking, I could just like toss them back and then start chatting up people. I was still very shy, but I was better. But I don't know. I mean, I think if I was with people I knew, it might be a different story, but going places alone, I wouldn't talk to anybody. Of course. No, and that's the get down, stay fair, bang, double. I feel like Gio's had some good at-bats lately. No, you're right. I mean, that will be the ultimate determining factor. And, there's that section of Tiger fans, and of course I'm a part of that are always going to be invested in this team. But I think that casual fans, when they look around the league and they see the kind of money that Ohtani gets from the Dodgers, they see the kind of money that Judge gets from the Yankees, or even on a lesser example, they see the kind of money that a guy like Correa gets from the Twins. I think there will be a section of Tiger fans that just won't be fully invested until Illich shows that he's capable of making a move like that. Now, he's capable of it. He has the money to do it. But does he have the stones to do it? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, which, as I've stated before, means it's not out of the realm of possibility that Harris can build something good and sustainable here. But it makes it a lot harder. That's outside. When so my bell. Ugh. That's up. That's up. Come on. No, no, because Harris didn't dish out that contract. Avila did. I think that if Harris would have gotten Hobby, it might be one thing. But I don't think you could punish one GM because of the move that another GM made. Any idea? No clue. I'd have to check. Hey, go 3. Good job. Even without it being the best season of this team, there have been so many things I've been invested with this team. Scuba Youngest. Yeah, I would say the second half of last year was like that as well, especially when Scuba came back and Green, Torque, and Carp were all healthy. That was fun. And they were above 500 in the second half. This year has had there'll be sporadically good stretches, but I think when we get to the end of the season, the first thing we'll think of is how inept the offense was for a long time. And down. And the underachieving of guys like Torque. Now, that's why, like, people might say this is dumb, but one of the reasons I didn't want us to trade Scuba was, like, I wanted something to watch in the second half. Like, there is something really fun about watching a guy chase a major award like that. And it's been a long time since we've seen that here. That should get the job done. He's safe. Is he bleeding? Yeah, I think he's bleeding. Oh, no, that's his tattoo. So it's a star tattoo. You know what's weird is I didn't see the ump signal safe, so I was worried that he might have over slid the plate. Oh, did Wenzel get to second on that? Yeah, good job. Oh, well, it got away, so yeah, he should. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's very narrow-minded to say, oh, you can't put it all on one player, but it's not all on one player. It's because the fact is Torque succeeding this season changes the way they pitch to Green, which changes the way they pitch to Carp, which changes the way they pitch to some other guys. Maybe Colt Keith would have developed a little bit quicker if Torkelson was that feared bat in the middle of the lineup. I offensively, I mean, let's just say Torque at this point, this team was 5 games in bat. Let's say this team wins 5 more games with a good Spencer Torkelson. All of a sudden, we're talking about a team that's 60 and 56 as opposed to 55 and 61. And who knows? Maybe they don't trade Flaherty. Maybe they add at the deadline. I mean, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but the point I'm trying to make is I don't think this team was that far away. I think that they fucked themselves at points. What happened in fucking Rough and Rowdy? This is true. This is true. Do something, Javi. You know what I was actually thinking before the Seattle series? And it's the big difference because last season, really, guys, I've talked about this before. I got so mad at Javi Baez last season that there was a point where I actually started to wonder, is this getting too mean with my criticism? He's been worse this season. The numbers are worse this season. But I was thinking before the Seattle series, that whole like, I'm going to chase pitches that are 20 feet off the plate or fastballs that are like at my head. He hasn't been doing that as much. And the numbers do still reflect that. But over the last few games, he started to revert back to his old ways. Run it up. I'll take the one. Because I think that's why he's been worse but bothered me less. Is over the last few years, I've seen a player that I felt like had legitimate talent but zero discipline and therefore was failing for the team I love. Now I just think he's just finished. Like, I just think that the body's broken down. I just don't think he has the ability that he once had. And I think that's kind of reflected in the defensive metrics too. Like, he's just not, he's still make a spectacular play every so often, but he's not what he once was. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think he has done that less this year. He has swung and missed less this year, but he doesn't make hard contact. The thing is, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, and the Cubs fans would attest to this, I would be willing to put up with a lot of I'd be willing to put up with a lot of the chasing and the swinging and missing if I felt like he was crushing mistakes. He doesn't crush mistake pitches, I think, is a huge problem. Is he's just like, and I think that just kills him.
Strike Zone Technology is presented by GMC. Not professional grade.
StatCast 3D powered by Google Cloud. This is wind speed by height. You're talking about this. Higher fly balls will be affected more tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Which way is the wind blowing? And AJ talked about it. He said wind is always a factor in this ballpark. There's little quirks with the bricks out in right field. The outfield.
Yeah, it was special. Yeah.
Especially second baseman have to watch the caroms off the bricks. But if a ball goes into that outfield, you've got to have all kinds of support because of that swirling wind action up there, up at the top, down at the middle, and then more down the plane surface. So it's going to be interesting on all fly balls into the outfield.
See, Ryan Villegas, we're watching him moving with his card in the outfield. A little bit closer to the line on 2 strikes for Matt Chapman. Ball 2 strikes. He has a home run in 4 of his last 6 games. Resurgent veteran at age 30.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, it is weird not seeing Javi in the line, or Javi. Sorry, it's weird not seeing Miggy in the lineup anymore, but at the same time, like, I feel like that was it was necessary. Like, he was well past due, man. And that just totally held him down.
We've seen inside the park helpers here before with a ball riding the outfield fence or kicking off the brick wall on their right. And there are quite a few Tigers players who have never played in this ballpark.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. What was it? 16? Was it 14 or 16 that never went in Seattle? That was the first time, and just as many.
I would say I'm not even basing it on the standings. I'm just basing it on eye test. Either New York or Baltimore, whoever finishes second in that division, And then I think we're going to get, I legitimately think we get 3 teams from the Central in the playoffs. I think Boston, their pitching has regressed a little bit. I just don't think, I think they're a few pieces away. Now, if the Joe Ryan being out for the year thing is true, makes things tougher for the Twins. Oh boy, is that, no, this is a deep, deep park, man. I mean, that's 415 to right center.
It's always great, just like when a pitcher gives up, a big hit or takes a loss or something. I get him right back out. And the way that ended, I mean, if he comes up with that ball, he's a hero. The Tigers should just sweep and that. But AJ reminds everybody, hey, wait a minute, just we still won that.
I know you're not a huge NBA guy, but any opinion on Tatum? Okay, here's one thing I was thinking about the other day because I was watching U.S. versus Serbia, and I got really into it in the fourth quarter. And what I realized is there's certain NBA players I love. I love LeBron. I love Steph. I think it's just the game as a whole is not as fascinating to me anymore, but I do enjoy NBA drama. I think that's one of the problems is I find NBA drama off the court significantly more interesting than a lot of what goes on the floor. I mean, to me, that is very bizarre, and I don't have O2 here. I don't have the intel that other people have regarding Steve Kerr's decision making, but I know that Jason Tatum he's a top 10 player in basketball, right? I mean, top 15. I mean, was the second best. I mean, Jaylen Brown is probably the best. Probably the second best player on a championship team, a dominant championship team that the Celtics had this year. I mean, they were wire to wire the best team in basketball last season. 0 minutes for a guy like that. I mean, it sounds kind of weird to put it this way, but that'd be like if in the 2016 Olympics, Kyrie didn't play. It's bizarre to me. I'm trying to figure out from NBA or basketball people that I trust. I feel like there has to be something beyond just he doesn't fit as well or gel as well with these guys. Because 0 minutes, I mean, this is just a theory, and this is a theory I'm just throwing around as fucking whatever. He played a lot of basketball last year. He played a ton of playoff games. Maybe they just didn't feel like he was as fresh. I'm not sure. What is still interesting to me, though, is I keep hearing about how the NBA age that we were just in, the LeBron, Steph, KD age is kind of ending, and we're about to make way for the new era, which is Jokic, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, though those guys have been here for a minute now. And yet you're playing in the Summer Olympics, and the 3 guys that they were relying on in the final minutes were the 40-year-old and 2 mid to late 30-somethings who've played probably more basketball than almost any. LeBron has probably played more basketball games than any NBA or just straight up basketball player ever when you combine the amount of playoff games that he's played. So for all this talk about how those guys are on their way out, it didn't look like it to me. Like when I watch LeBron James play, and keep in mind, I don't watch nearly as much basketball as even the average fan. When I watch LeBron James play, I say, I think that guy's still the best player in the world. And that's probably a simplistic way of looking at it. I am not into basketball analytics as much as other people are. I know that generally speaking, Nikola Jokic is probably considered to be the best basketball player in the world at this point. But it's maybe I'm getting old and it's a generational thing now. where I feel about LeBron the way I felt about Tom Brady, where it's like, okay, yeah, these guys, like, you got these up and comers and they can move and they got these big arms, but like I'm going to war with this guy. Like he's gonna find a way to get it done. That's up. Honestly, I haven't really been watching the Olympics a ton. It just doesn't interest me that much, but it's, I guess it's cool to follow. I don't know, it's just not really my vibe, I guess, but it's, it's cool. Leadoff walk for Andy Ibanez. Yeah, I mean, I run a lot, and I'm the last few days it's just been running, applying for jobs, fucking jerking off. I'm kidding. Watching baseball. No, it's Sunkist. No free ads, but Sunkist. Brian Sammons kind of looks like Chris Fetter. Big Tuna. Jim Halpert. All right, come on. Hitters count to J-Hen here. Ah, pussy. That's a ridiculous statistic. Yeah, I mean, I remember Nick Wright made. I wouldn't have stole there. Not with no outs, not in a 2-0 count. Yeah, that was dumb. But I remember Nick Wright made a point. I know Nick Wright's like the biggest LeBron like slurper ever, but he makes good points. Where for some reason we punish athletes for losing in the championship round and reward athletes for not making it to the championship round. For instance, Michael Jordan was 6-0 in the finals. And people say all the time, oh, LeBron loses in the finals all the time. Okay, Michael Jordan also consistently came up short in the first, second, or third round of the postseason. For the longest time, he couldn't make the finals. LeBron made it to the finals like every year for a fucking decade. And yet because he came significantly closer than Jordan did most of the time, he's punished for being the guy who often came up short in the last series. It's weird. Yeah, we talked on the phone about it the next week. If it does, so be it. That's down. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the cycle with LeBron, and LeBron James and Justin Verlander to me are like two figures where, and Brady as well, they've just been sports figures as long as I've watched sports, really. And LeBron went from very well-liked young kid from Akron who was representing his hometown team to seriously the most hated athlete in sports for several years. I mean, I remember on Twitter, the night he lost to the Mavericks in 2011, the meltdown and just the grave stomping that people did when they lost that series. And he went from totally loathed to back to being back to being like kind of in people's good graces again. And now he's like lauded as, you know, one of the great athletes of all time, which he is. Even when I was young and I'd finished 8th grade going into my freshman year of high school, I never got the hate that LeBron got for going to Miami. Even when I was young, I knew those Cavs teams he was on fucking stunk, except for him. He was there for a long time. It wasn't like he was there for 2 years and bailed. He was, let's see, 04. He was there for 6-7 years. Now, making an announcement on national TV, kind of douchey. But he took less money to go there. And I also think that's in play. I also think that Heat team, those Heat teams, he was there for 4 years, were never as dominant as some people expected them to be. Because, you know, Dwayne Wade, legendary player, first ballot Hall of Famer, you know, God bless him, amazing player. I mean, 06 Dwayne Wade was unstoppable. I remember it, you know, being a Pistons fan at the time. But by the time LeBron got to Miami, Wade was already starting to show a little bit of errors. Knees weren't, he was not as explosive as he was the first several years of his career. Bosch, while still really good defensively, still contributed a lot, was not the dynamic offensive player that he was when he was in Toronto. I never considered that to be like the true super team of the NBA. The true super teams of the NBA to me started when Durant went to Golden State, because at that point it was a foregone conclusion which teams were going to be playing in the finals every year. Right, and I'm telling you, there's literally no player in the history of basketball that would have been capable of probably getting that team to the second round, let alone the finals. Big fan of Castle slash Barstool. Why do you never talk about the real reason things fell apart in Barstool and always talk in general terms when everyone the reason you got it, or everyone knows the reason you got it? I mean, because to be honest, that's for you guys. Like, that doesn't do any good for anybody. You know, to me, I've caused enough issues there. You know, not happy with the way things ended, and I'm, you know, the biggest reason for that. But what would be the purpose of embarrassing anybody else? You know?
And the Rays funds that he came over here in an off-season deal in 2022.
Yeah.
2022 season for outfielder Tristan Peters. So then made his Giants debut last year. He was starting the year in AAA Sacramento.
Man, if he can get Brisky to go 3 here, that would be huge. I was following along with it. Yeah, I didn't buy it, but I was following the clips and shit. I always enjoyed Rough and Rowdy. I always found Rough and Rowdy very funny.
Could be by design, but just the way it comes out of his hand. You know, sometimes you can turn him over a little bit more to get that down and away action from the left-handed hitter. Sometimes you can just come straight over the top.
Popped up. Call it. Thank you.
Sally the batter. Still kind of jarring to see the single-digit pitcher number. For Bill Brisky, Joey Miller 7, Brisky 4.
Jack Flaherty 0.
If I could go on an all expenses paid vacation, where am I going? Probably to several different baseball parks. Really good pitch. I don't know, maybe out west, go like hit all the California ones in like a week. Am I an Avatar fan? I take it you're asking about the James Cameron films and not The Last Airbender. Yeah, you know, I think my journey with the Avatar movies is kind of similar to a lot of other people's. Where I remember the first one when it came out, I saw it in the theaters with my dad. I was in 8th grade. It was a big deal. The first Avatar was a big deal, and that shit had legs. It just kept making money every fucking weekend, similar to what Titanic did when that movie opened. And I really liked it at the time. And I said, wow, this is a really amazing movie. Technically, it's an achievement. The effects are incredible. And then I never watched it again. I think I rewatched it one time on DVD, and that was in like 2010. Good pitch. He's got a good fastball tonight. That was in about 2010, and I proceeded not to watch it ever again from 2010 through 2022, the next 12 years. I saw Avatar: The Way of Water maybe 2 or 3 days, I think, after I got out of rehab. Don't quote me on that. And my brain was still pretty fuzzy. So I don't remember a ton of it, but I remember not caring at all what was going on in the movie. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't really care for the story. The first one, as cliche as it is, does a good job of introducing you to the world of the Na'vi. It's kind of like a superhero origin story where there's just something cool about seeing this lore get introduced. I didn't get any of that from the second one, but goddamn, it just looks so beautiful. And it's just, there is a feeling you get watching those James Cameron Avatar movies that I can't explain. It's incomparable to any other film series. And so like I always recommend that people see them in a theater, and I'm gonna see the third one, and I'm gonna see what happens. I think they are so visually masterful. I think there's so much effort put into the lore and the creature design and the effects. I just wish he would let somebody punch up his scripts. Not even a full rewrite. Like, there are people in Hollywood known as punch-up writers. Patton Oswalt's a famous one. Carrie Fisher was of Star Wars fame was a very famous one. Great change-up. Let's go. Where they would take a finished script and they would punch up the dialogue and add character and add humor. I wish they would do that with those Avatar movies because they're just so severely lacking in personality. But I do like them. Yeah, it's weird. Last year for the Barstool Awards, I was staying at a hotel that was literally across the street from Fenway Park. And sadly, they weren't. They didn't have a home game.
Get the card that gets you what you deserve. Because when it's your bank, it's your card. America Bank. Raise your expectations.
Making your dog your ring bearer is one way to show your love. Car park. You took a good one, didn't you? But delicious Caesar canine cuisine is a better way.
Chevy lets you begin every day fully charged. So you can go farther. And so can your money. Tow with confidence. Plus, stay connected with available OnStar technology. For summer adventures, Chevy's got you. Or GM employees with a current eligible lease can get this Silverado for around $319 a month. Chevy drives the Motor City. Together, let's drive. Drive into 20.
Do you have a second team that you root for when the Tigers are out of the playoff hunt? Sometimes. I remember I got really into the Cubs in 15 and 16. I really have enjoyed watching the Astros over the last, really since they got Verlander. But I love those teams. They just have a bunch of players I like. I love Altuve and Jordan, and I love Springer when he was there, and I like Bregman. And I like their pitching, Frommer and Verlander, obviously, and the bullpen that they had. So I this year, I want the Orioles to kind of be that B team for me because I love their offensive core so much. But I find their pitching to be kind of maddening. And even when it's good, I have very little faith that I don't think they have October pitchers outside of Burns. You got Kimbrel closing games. How do you think that's going to end? So I don't know this year. It's very wide open. Is it weird to live on in the Reddit page by having your own meme? It's I'm disappointed in myself that I reached a point of such instability that that was the meme that I became. I don't know. As a person who has watched your videos and is a part of the Reddit, have I considered the subreddit Intel chat to help out? What do you mean by that? Because believe it or not, there are certain things. Now, the thing is with Twitter and with Reddit, and really with anything you see on the internet, there's so much that's thrown at you that if you listen to everyone, you're going to drive yourself insane because you got to realize you're never going to please everybody. I remember when the calendar turned to 2024 this year, and I might not have admitted it, but I kind of knew, like, I ain't going to have this job for much longer. I'm like, what do you guys want out of me? Like, I was so just emotionally burned out that I just kind of put it out there. What do you guys want to see? And a lot of the responses I did listen to. It was go to the games, interview fans, do videos at the games, do man on the street stuff. So there were constructive criticisms that I listened to. Now, strike three, took it right down the middle. I'm not going to listen to people who say, well, he should just leave or he should just not make content anymore. Like I'm still going to have a certain level of belief in myself and what I can do. But there were things I listened to. Yeah.
I would say that most of the time, and I know this doesn't help you as a hitter, so he's not exactly tipping, but most of the time.
Well, we were too patient there. I took strike three down the fucking middle. It is. I mean, for back-to-back weekends, I paid good money to go down to Detroit, go to Ford Field for those playoff games. I don't regret it, not at all. I was proud of what we did. But yeah, it's expensive. I do. Oh man, it's filthy.
This summer because FanDuel has something for everyone every day, which means you can beat the heat with no sweat bets. Plus, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win.
No.
It's so much entertainment out there. Wouldn't it be great if you could
Well, you know what? That's actually not true. And this is okay. This is a huge, huge reason for why I went so sideways. Is Dave told me and Dan told me, and I can say this because they've said it publicly. I not revealing new information. Told me to blog, and whether you like my blogs, hate my blogs, what have you, for a long time, probably starting in like June of last year, all the way through to like, up to by the time I left, I did blog a lot. Like I was pretty consistently a top 10 to 20 blogger. I wrote a ton of shit. In terms of overall views per blog, was I great? No, I wasn't. Because I wrote about a lot of baseball stuff and a lot of niche stuff, but I felt like I was contributing. The problem is I failed to block out the noise because I think up to that point, probably they were like, oh, yeah, he's carrying his weight. It's fine. But you start to listen and read the comments that people have for you. And people kept saying, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't make content. He doesn't contribute. He's going to lose his job. And instead of blocking out the noise and listening to the people I should have actually listened to, I started believing that, the peanut gallery. And it led to me really pressing. Now, did it lead to some good stuff? It did lead to some good content, but near the end, I just got so fed up with the idea of people believing that I was a non-contributor. And it just, what was weird is it got me pissed off at people that like I had no business being pissed off at. I have made a much more concerted attempt over the last several months to do the best I can to block out that, block out the outside noise. Because regardless of where I'm working, if you're going to be creating content on the internet, you're always going to have that. You're always going to have that. Yes, I do. Because I think some people get it wrong when I say my mental health is responsible for what happened. That's not me saying that like, oh, they cut me out because they knew I had bad mental health. It's just that I believe if I was more mentally stable, it wouldn't have led to me drinking and it wouldn't have led to some of the things that led to the downward spiral. That's what I mean by mental health. I don't think there was ever a time where Barstool was like, this guy's depressed. We can't have him on the stream. I mean, I think even Francis wrote about in the blog. He's like, we're all suicidal. Like, you're not special for that. So yeah, I do. But I think it was a combination of this kind of constant need for validation, and just kind of missing the way things were. So I do. I think they gave me opportunities. Get asked this every day. I answer it the same every day, but I just try to answer it a little bit different as to not get boring. I don't believe they would ever have me back unless, and I think that this is a long shot considering I've been making content for a long time, unless I popped off in a way where I was an immediate guaranteed moneymaker for the company. That's kind of what happened with Francis. Is Francis was like under much different circumstances. He was still in good graces for the most part. But Francis he grew in popularity over time, and they saw the value in him and they brought him back. So I don't see it ever happening. Would I go back in a second? Yeah. And I would go back with very specific rules. Knowing that there's certain things that I wouldn't have access to, which I get. Could I do 5 plugs a day if it wasn't about to try? Something like it, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't on a 3-2 swing. He stood there and took the 3-2. Yeah, I know he's out of the game. That sucks. Padres on World Series watch. They're good. They're quite good. Stay in. That's what she said. All right, sweet. Favorite pitch in baseball? Good question. Are we saying actual pitch, like fastball, or a specific pitcher's pitch, like Verlander's fastball? Oh, okay. Will Aiden Childs be good? I do think Aiden Childs will be good. And I think that Jonathan Smith did a very smart thing by going out and getting a guy that he recruited to come to MSU. And I think that that's a huge step. I've talked about this from the beginning, but it's true. I don't think that the issue Jonathan Smith will have in the first year or two that he's at Michigan State will be developing position players. You know, Michigan State, I know they've been shitty lately, is still a major school. It's still a Big Ten school. It's still a school that in relatively recent history has had a fair amount of success. You know, I'm not saying they're going to get 5-star guys, but they'll get enough talent there at the skill positions where I think it will take a long time for this to get off the ground, will be developing in the trenches. You know, it's kind of unfair because we're talking about a team that won the national championship, but the Michigan game last year was the ultimate example of that. Michigan's physicality on both the offensive and defensive lines essentially led to Michigan State's skill position players completely being taken out of the game. Now, they didn't have a quarterback last year either, but they gave JJ a ton of time to throw, and defensively, offensively, MSU could get nothing going. I think Childs will be good. I also think that he's going to be running for his life a lot of the time, at least in the first year or so that he's there. I think I was talking to a friend of mine who's a big Michigan State fan about this. I think that there's just going to be a lot of little things with Michigan State football that people are going to notice that are going to be greatly improved. To me, one of the number one signs, two major signs of a poorly coached football team: stupid penalties and special teams mistakes. You could say just team mistakes in general, like turnovers, but like I think muff punts, missed field goals, muff snaps, and then just dumb personal foul penalties, dumb, pass interference penalties, not enough men on the field, too many men on the field. You saw that very consistently in the Mel Tucker. Even in the year they were good in 21, you kind of saw that. Like, get down, hobby. Go 2. Yeah, it's 2. I think that stuff is going to be cleaned up. And while I still think that they're going to be a 500 close, maybe a slightly under 500 team, I think just the fact that the screws are going to be a lot tightened, I think it'll be very similar. Now, he won't have the success that this guy had, but I think it'll be very similar to what that first year was under D'Antonio, where, yeah, they went 7-6. It wasn't like anything magic or incredible happened. But you saw a program that was much more resemblant of an actual program.
Just fastball to him. It's been a couple of breaking pitches thinking that, well, maybe it's a little tougher to bunt, but it's just he sees them square and he's not used to seeing it.
No, man, I mean, we're watching the Tigers, but these are free-flowing, Q&As.
the sixth three-ball count to 18 hitters, 1/3 of the bases.
And if you're ever going to get a middle fastball left on left, this is going to be it. But you can. You gotta take that pitch, but that's what he has to do. Left on left.
Well, I haven't had a ton of success with that. From my experience, your first few times there, just listen. You don't have to talk, man. Just listen. Just listen to other people. Listen to their stories. Absorb their information. Pick up the things that you take as helpful. Pick up on the things that maybe you take as not so helpful. Everyone there has a different story, and everyone there has a different way of dealing with the personal struggles that they've been through. Man, I hate to do this when we have a runner on second, but I got to take a fucking shit, dude. That's outside. I got to use the bathroom, but I'll be back. I got to take more shits because we scored a run. When do people replace the word? I take that you mean replace me having an ego with me being fragile. Well, I think both can be applicable. I have a giant ego when it comes to talking about sports. Yes, I think that I am very good at it. I think I make it entertaining for my audience. I will continue to stand by that. It is the one area of my life that I feel pretty confident in. I'm not going to challenge, I don't have the ego to think that I could beat somebody in a game of one-on-one basketball, but just in regards to talking about the sport of baseball, especially, but sports as a whole, yes, I'm going to continue to believe that I have, I offer something there. It's true.
Service dog K-line, and now we have Karis and Curtis. And how is it? Like, can we get this in here real quick before I turn it over? Curtis, with their own trading card right here. With his own trading card right here. So, how is
Okay.
it going?
One thing that I'm
It's going pretty well. He's 7 months old now. So we're still in the stage of like, I'm bribing you to be good. But he's an awesome baby. He's so like focused most of the time when he's not being a menace. And he's super fun to train. And most of the time he has a really nice little mouth and he loves her, she loves him. There's bitey face all the time.
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Well, we like snuggling and Karis Lovitz, right? So this is how we all tie it in, which I love the fact that you tie in your service dogs with the Detroit Tigers history.
My dad gave him his middle name because everybody needs one.
Okay. This is my theory. I'm going to talk about this in my post-game video tonight. My theory with this bullpen is that they are good enough and deep enough to get middle inning outs, but they don't have the power at the end of the pen to be able to get high leverage outs in close games. Because you look at the last 2 games that we've lost, we've pitched fucking great until the 8th and 9th innings. Mainly the 9th, really just the 9th. That's a beautiful park, by the way, in San Fran.
So, Dan Petrie, Peaches very well. Peaches has a dog, Petey, which is getting ready for Bark at the Park. Peaches, do you remember when the first Bark at the Park night for Petey's going to be? I knew. He's September 25th of this year. He's going to make an appearance. He's got all his friends, and I don't know if I'm working yet, but I will either one way or another. I will be there, and he'll be making my biggest hire.
Good pitch.
Very good. So, Cole, I know when we caught up with you.
Probably not.
We caught up with you in San Francisco and back home in Detroit. Any plans to make it back to the Motor City this season with the Cubs?
Not this season because he's not really prepared to do plane travel, and I already took off a ton of time when we picked him up because we actually flew into Detroit because we had to go pick him up in Canada. So we flew into Detroit, drove into Canada, got him, brought him back, took pictures in front of the big tiger. This was early March, so no games, but we got his picture in front of the big tiger, and then we brought him home. So yeah, that was our big trip for this year. But next year, we're hoping to either see the Tigers in Detroit or maybe like add another ballpark to our checklist.
Well, I'm adding Curtis to my collection.
Pitch time violation. Okay.
From Karis Lowlich on my trading cards. Curtis Lehman, the star of the show.
Heavy sigh, but it's actually a positive heavy sigh. Maeda looks good. Good pitch.
If we could look at the ratings for that part of the show, the dogs on television, I think, are just a ratings spike. Good job, John.
Yeah, that was. I remember when Johnny interviewed her a couple of years ago, and it's really a neat story. And I don't know, the dogs always have a soft place in my heart, of course. But boy, that Curtis was beautiful dog. I can see if I could get a trading card. I'd like the Curtis Lehman trading.
You do have a trading card. The one that Johnny showed looks exactly like you. The card that he put up, it looked like you.
I didn't see it. I just could have cut it out the corner of my eye and it was gone. Yeah.
Aw. Did I ever tell you guys this? Okay, so when I was working at a gas station, I think I have told the story before, but this is one of those, it still bothers me because I am very, and you have seen it, very capable of being an asshole, but I don't like being called an asshole when I don't deserve to be called an asshole. When I was still working at a gas station, there was a woman who came in with a service dog. I don't believe she was, not that this is a prerequisite, but I don't believe that he ground out. Yep, attaboy, hobby. Make a play. Sweet. I don't believe that she was blind or deaf. But she had a service dog. And she was at one register buying whatever it was, or coffee or whatever. And the woman that I was helping comes in and okay, I've told the story. It bothers me. Comes in and is talking to me, and she goes, "Oh, look at that dog." And I said, "Yeah, I know, dog's adorable." It's like 7:00 in the morning. Okay, I want to be behind the register. I'll smile for people, give them their shit. Okay, but that's it. I'm not like whatever my boss wants me to do, I'll do. But then she goes, "Are you gonna pet the dog?" I said, "No, probably not." She goes, "Why not?" I'm like, "Well, it's a service dog. I don't really know if we're supposed to pet service dog." And then she's like, then she's like, "That's something Trump would do." And she walked away, and I just said to be like, "Have a good day." For one, I don't even know if that makes any sense. I don't know what she's talking about there. And secondly, it's a fucking, what are you talking about? Oh, it still bothers me.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college. I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually,
look, I have a lot of people like animals. That's fine. You are allowed to like all the animals that you want, but I really don't like it when diehard animal lovers live under the assumption that we have to love animals as much as they do. Oh no. That's no. Lame. He died like a dog, whimpering in the corner. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. Do I think I could challenge someone at Barstool to Rough and Rowdy? And if you win, it means you would rejoin the company. I don't think. I don't think you can challenge people while you are unemployed by the company. While you're not employed by the company. There have been and I could be wrong about this. I'm not 100% well versed in Rough and Rowdy lore. I don't believe there's ever been somebody who didn't work for the company and then had the opportunity to get their job back because that boy Colt, because they won in Rough and Rowdy. If they came to me and said, we want you to fight somebody, you win, we'll sign you for a 1-year league minimum salary, I'd obviously do it, but I can't imagine any world in that would happen. Why do you think A didn't work for you? The hardest part for me was picking up the phone every single day. Well, what you're saying there is taps into kind of the issue that I had. And it's a delicate thing because I don't want to make it seem like I'm looking down on people, especially people who the process has worked for. But the whole higher power thing is really a non-starter for me. I have a very pessimistic, I guess you could call it, is this a word, atheistic view of spirituality and God and higher power. And so when that stuff is kind of brought up to me internally, I just roll my eyes. I know that it works for a lot of people, and it's great that it works for a lot of people. But it's kind of shocking to me that in the, I don't know how 70 years that AA has been around, that like the still like the most proven method of like, oh, this works is find God. Again, I'm probably in the wrong because it does work for a lot of people, but I sympathize and empathize with you in regards to the lack of spiritual connection. Somebody just said Flaherty's getting popped, is he? That's it. Well, he gave a 4. Which is, I mean, that's a lot for him, but
we're talking about this ballpark opening in the year 2000, just like Comerica Park did. It was a 6-5 victory for the Dodgers on the road here in the opener, all the way back in the year 2000. We look at the scoreboard that day. It's a reminder of how quickly time moves in Major League Baseball. That same day, the Pirates lost to the Montreal Expos 7-3. Javier Vasquez got the win. Winning pitchers on that day across baseball: Brian Moeller, Channahal Park, Charles Nagy, Ramon Martinez, Ron Malone, Jim Parquet, among others. And those two ballparks are home. Comerica Park and this ballpark open on the same day. Ground ball, third base side.
this is another one of those games similar to last night, where I feel like we are in complete. Wait, he was safe? Oh, okay. I mean, dude, Casale's had a rough night behind there. I feel like we're in complete control of this game, and yet it's only a 2-run game. Yeah, no, it's. Thoughts on you trying to make the 2020? I don't know. Let me try Try breakdancing right No, this guy's gonna do it. Well, it's a classic Robbie Race start where the command has been a bit off, but he's going to have a lot of swing and miss. Him and Blake Snell are kind of similar, which is ironic because they're on the same team now.
Casale is the second catcher this year with 3 errors in one game. Nick Fortes of the Marlins is the other one. That's one of those scenarios. It's the same deal as we saw at third base. You wait for the play to happen because if the Tigers got a better result,
Get down.
Like
Damn.
if you get a better result from the play, you can take the play. And so there was no vehement signal, but as the plate umpire Drake was walking in front of home plate, something was pretty clearly afoot.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jason, because even though it was a ground out, and Wyman was just kind of jogging down to first base, and I was like, oh no, don't tell me he got hurt. And then, yeah, even if it's thrown over the head of the first baseman, you have to allow the runner to see how far he can go and how far he can get before you actually call it.
But as the play happened, you do have to wait for the umpire to call it. And so eventually it was well done again by this crew.
I was just thinking about Driscoll going the other way when they only went the other way with it. This kind of was not that's right.
0-2 is running foul by the lady. In the air, right field line, and this is stopped. So Robbie Ray's now over 100 pitches, and that is not any small thing for a guy that's been on the shelf for most of this year.
That's exactly.
I think they can. Yeah. I came into the year liking them because I felt like last year they had one huge problem, which is they weren't fucking clutch. I know they traded Soto, and a lot of people are not. That's a really good roster. It's a good roster. Yes, I think they have a shot. I have. Yeah, no, he's a really nice guy. Yeah, everyone liked him. Man. It's got to be tough to foul off a million pitches, and yet you're still down 0-2. There it is again. Regardless of whether he gets this guy out, you got to think this is his last batter. I mean, drop. Good good at bat. You know, good battle, but
This is Lily Green. Well, Lily Green is a good player, so just keep doing what you're doing.
see, we got there. I bet Kenta in these situations has gone as deep as 5 innings. So presumably he could again. He's only at 28 pitches. I know Kenta going more than 3 scares me, to be honest, but our pitching's. I'd rather have him go for 4 innings than bring in Shelby or something like that. Brent Hitter, yeah. True, but even so, if you go more than 3 innings, that means you're at least going second time through the order.
So far. Strike 1 to Wisely. So the official word on Watchalong Perez is left abdominal tightness, which is
Weird.
He reached on that swing we showed.
Good pitch. Where the fuck, and I know it's a different situation, was this guy at all when he was starting? And that's what his splitter, it's like he's found it since going to the bullpen. That's filthy.
Did he just tunnel 2 splitters off each other that went the opposite way?
That one, the first one looked like it went straight down with a little bit of movement to the back.
And that's what's so interesting about, like, that's what my whole thing is. If you have a starter that's struggling, just move him to the bullpen. We see it all the time because when we watched Maeda as a starter, I talked about it, and I think most people agree with me, is how weak his stuff looked. I think part of it was he wasn't really commanding his fastball, and because of that, he was getting behind in counts. He wasn't able to miss bats. I mean, he was a mess. Even when he struggled there's been a few outings where he's given up homers out of the pen, but like the stuff has significantly more life to it.
You can manipulate the ball a little bit with the pressure on your finger on that pitch, but also the wind. If the wind is coming right at you at the field level, it can affect the ball too.
Make a play. Good job. He could have rushed that, and he didn't.
Menards brings you the big money encounter. And this is what's going on with the guys that the Tigers got for Jack Flaherty. Tyrone Toronto, 7 games with West Michigan, bouncing over from the Great Lakes Blues to the Whitecaps. He's got 4 extra base hits. Joe Stevie, an intriguing prospect, left-handed shortstop. 7 games, 5 extra base hits. The Mudhens got themselves a walk-off. Was a grounded at second base. He found the charge. Roll up the field. He's got the out.
Coming on 3 outs, coming on that splitter, a strikeout, a comeback.
Thoughts on the Braves or Brewers' historic stretch for his Braves on the road without Yelich? I said this a few months ago, and it not sadly, but it has turned out to be more true than I ever expected. The Milwaukee Brewers have become the Tampa Bay Rays of the National League. I have no fucking clue how they keep accidentally winning 95 games a year. I am continually either not aware of or I'm just simply unimpressed by much of their lineup. And yet their offense has taken huge steps forward this season. Adames has had a good year. Obviously, Contreras making the All-Star team. It's one of those lineups. And I remember when we played them, it's one of those lineups that it might not have a singular guy that stands out as terrifying, but top to bottom, it's really good. And Jackson Churrio's started to come along really well. I'm with Caleb. I still don't see them, who starts game 1 of a playoff series, Peralta. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. The offseason they had was very interesting because last season they had a tremendous pitching staff and a very weak offense. This year, it's kind of flipped because they traded Corbin Burns and they got, I think, Joey Ortiz in that deal and a few other guys. And the offense has been solid, and I feel like I don't trust their pitching staff to do a thing in the postseason. It's bizarre. They deserve a lot of credit because one of the teams coming into the year that I thought would take a big step backwards. They didn't have a very good offseason, or at least on paper they didn't. You trade Burns, you lose your manager, Woodruff out for the year, and yet they've kind of kept going.
Chevrolet's strongest player comes in the fifth inning. It's Javi Baez. It's a leadoff double and a dart down the left field line. Got him to second base, and then he activated the leg.
Yeah, just love the way he did that too. Man.
Yeah, I feel like he's been out for a while. Yeah, he's filthy when he's on. I mean, he's arguably the best reliever in baseball when he's rolling.
As the ball went into left field, he scored easily. Just kind of took that over. Just both runs coming off leadoff doubles.
He's like, you know what's weird is I stay up late as it is anyway, and this is going to sound like the most pussified thing ever. I'm literally talking to a computer screen, and yet, like, it does take something out. Who just homered? Somebody just hit a fucking nuke. Oh, for the Diamondback. Braves miss playoffs. And the pitching's falling apart, man. I still think they have what it takes to make the postseason, but I don't foresee them making a particularly deep run. They've just had too many injuries. I think that their core is still great, and I think that there's no reason for them to panic. I just think that the injuries have killed them. Yeah, I mean, throughout the year, you lose Acuna, Strider at the beginning of the year. Ronaldo Lopez is out. I do think you have two legit starters, in a playoff series with Sale and Fried, but no, I don't know if that's enough.
It's a good time for a great time at MGM Grand Detroit.
Johnny Kane rolling the ball front. Dan Petrie and Jason Benetti in our closing broadcast position on level 2 here at Oracle Park as Andy Ibanez takes a strike after being on base twice in his first 3 trips.
It's frustrating. They part of me kind of likes the mystery box element to it. Where like I find out like 20 minutes before I'm gone. Ooh, that was filthy. But yeah, it is annoying. And what's weird is if Mize and Olsen were to come back, I could legitimately see us playing some really good baseball down the stretch. All I can say is that I keep applying, TBD is very annoying, but they have it's not any blame that I put on the organization. It's blame that I solely just put on bad luck. I think if anything, the organization as a whole has done a better job of adding pitching depth over the last several years. But I don't care how much depth you have when half your starting rotation and half your AAA rotation is just nothing you can do. Yeah, it's a weird thing because it wouldn't shock me if this team finished with almost the exact same record as they finished with last year. I think that the opening day roster for this team is probably a little bit better than where they'll finish. And I think last year's opening day roster was a little bit worse than how they finished. I think last year they won a lot of close games. It was good juju in the second half. Skubal came back healthy. Down the stretch, it helped a lot.
And he's the first player in Diamondbacks history whose first career home run is a walk-off winner.
Oh, this is first for him. Would I ever join Alex Bennett's podcast network? I'm open to many different things. My question is, what is their network? Like, is it just her shows? Like, is it an actual sustainable like business plan? Do they pay people? I don't know. I'd have to do many questions. I have many questions to ask.
In 3 innings as well. This is away 2-0. Still a 2-run ball game as well. There's a lot swirling around here, and that's not a commentary on the wind gusts.
That's in there.
Strike 1, 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, this is much more so the Maeda that I thought we were getting when we signed him, which is a lot of people had complaints early on in the season about the lack of velo. He's never been a hard thrower, but it's just been the way that he's it was dependent on his slider and a splitter locating for him to be successful. He's finally done that. Stuff looks a lot better.
2-2. Rock foul right side. Last Friday night, exactly 1 week ago, Blake Snell threw a no-hitter for the San Francisco Giants. 2-2.
Well, if there's any consolation, at least it was a legitimate hit. Oh, Jesus. Utility guy. It wouldn't surprise me if in the offseason they give him a second look in terms of having him play some infield. If next season Wenzel Perez, and when I say this, I don't mean he'll be a better version of this player. If next season Wenzel can fill the Zach McKinstry role, where you're moving him around the diamond, you're filling him in on days when guys need days off, and in turn you end up playing him often, I think that'd be good.
It doesn't look like it's got that where the hitter can pick up the shape a little bit. It's a much later, smaller slap.
Fuck my cock. I think he's going to try to get him through this fucking frame, but we'll see.
Just so well placed, too softly hit for Chris to be able to come in and do anything about getting Fitzgerald to third.
Check it. Damn it. Pitch.
We figured the second time through for Maeda would be a different situation. It has not been laser-like contact, but it's been enough.
Now you're starting to see them split on that split finger down in the strike zone too.
Good question. Probably the Giants. Well, fuck. On a personal level, probably the Giants one, just because that. Even though the Giants were good that year, But I was just older. I was a junior in high school. Like I was a bigger Tigers fan then. The 06 run was so magical. Make a catch, please. All right, I'll take the out. Don't let him go to second. All right, good play. All right.
Yeah, he did get the split finger that just it was going away. It just happened to
That's the correct answer. Because to me, the losses that sting the most to me as a sports fan are the losses where I felt like my team was the better team and either didn't play well or there were circumstances where the ball just didn't bounce their way for whatever reason. I don't like losing, and I sure as fuck don't like losing in the World Series. But the losses in 2006 and 2012 are very easily explainable. In 2006, they forgot how to field the fucking ball, and the offense got shut down. Verlander got rocked in game 1. Bullpen fell apart in game 4. There's multiple things that kind of, attributed to that. 2012, again, they didn't hit at all. 3 runs, no runs, no runs, and 3 runs in the 4-game series. And again, Verlander got rocked in game 1. In 2013, they out-hit the Red Sox in that series. They out-pitched the Red Sox in that series. Ironically, David Ortiz was a non-factor in that series outside of 1 swing. You got it. And it was a few mistakes defensively and some horrific pitching by the bullpen that did him in. That was a very good Red Sox team. By the time you got to the postseason, you will never convince me that they were better than the Tigers that year. That Tigers roster was the roster that every GM in baseball wanted that season. And that's the one that hurts the most. That's the one that hurts the most. Even 2011, I don't think we were better than the Rangers. And in 2014, while that team won the division and I could have seen them making a deep run through October. After the first month and a half, there was something really weird with that team. They were very inconsistent. They almost lost the division. And while people look at that 2014 team and go, oh, they had 5 Cy Young winners. Okay, yes, but they weren't 5 guys who were all pitching like Cy Young winners at the time. It was Verlander's worst season. We had Price for 12 starts. Porcello was good, but he wasn't great that year. Scherzer was in his prime. That was probably the only one. And Robbie Ray was a rookie. That doesn't. And Sanchez obviously was, had a fine year when he pitched. He had some injury issues. But that team had a fucking dog shit bullpen too. And Osmus mismanaged that entire series. The only one where that I look at and I go, that's the one they should have had was 13. Of course, in an ideal world, yes, they play better in the 06 series. Yes, they play better in the 2012 series, but those are best of 7 game series for a reason. And they got pretty soundly beat in 4 games, both times. I can live with it. I don't know. It still bothers me, but I can accept that as a defeat. 13 was the year. 13 was the year. I don't know how any of those didn't win. Well, they were 1 out away. I guess, it's so weird to say about a team that was literally this close in terms of, a fly ball going into Nelson Cruz's glove. I guess in 2011, that offense was ridiculous. And they would get sporadically good pitching by Colby Lewis and Harrison. And CJ Wilson had a good year that year. He was bad in October. But they never really had tremendous pitching. Now they were better than the Cardinals in 2011. That was one of the best World Series ever. That was a great, great, great World Series. Oof. Yeah, they had Cliff Lee in 2010. Yeah, and Cliff Lee was – it was weird because in 2010 they got to the World Series, and I don't remember like what the odds were at, but the 2010 Giants, they're not the worst team to ever win a World Series. I mean, they won 90 games or 92 games or something in the regular season. But when you look at that offense, without looking at the numbers, because a lot of guys had good years, you look at that offense and you go, man, how the fuck did this team win the World Series? I mean, they had a fucking great year by Aubrey Huff, had like an amazing season for them. They had just a bunch of journeyman players who had big moments in October or good regular seasons. They won 92 games. You had, Buster Posey, who was a rookie that year, who was he was rookie of the year. Freddie Sanchez, Juan Uribe, Panda, Pat Burrell had a great year. Aaron Rowan, Nate Shearholtz, Edgar Renteria, Andres Torres, Travis Ishikawa, a lot of journeyman guys, but they had great pitching. A pitcher that, and he has a very big moment in baseball history, so maybe I can't call him underrated, but a guy who I think was often overlooked because Lincecum was on the staff. Matt Cain was fucking dynamite in multiple postseasons. He had a 0 ERA that in 2010 postseason. Was the O's series the end of it? Yes. I mean, objectively, yes. I remember in 2015, I feel like this game doesn't get talked about enough. The Tigers were 500, right around 500, and they had one series left before the All-Star break. And it was in Minnesota, who they'd swept at home to start the season. And during the Leland years, those teams would sometimes be frustrating because they would kind of be like playing with their food, like 2 games up with a 3-game series coming up in Cleveland, and then they would go to Cleveland and beat the shit out of them. And I remember we won let me think about this. Yeah, it was the first game of that series against Minnesota. And Verlander pitched, and he was great. And he was coming off the IL, and we weren't sure how good he was going to be, but he was fantastic. And I think we were up 6-1 or 7-1. And we gave up a bunch of runs in the 9th inning, including, I think, a 3-run walk-off shot to Brian Dozier. And I remember going into that series being like, we're going to sweep the Twins. We're going to turn the season around. We're going to make a run for the division. And I remember in that moment being like, yeah, I think the magic is officially lost. Yeah, so that was a 4-game set. We won the first game with Price pitching. He beat Mike Pelfrey. The next night, we lost on the walk-off to Brian Dozier. And then we lost 5-9 the next day and 7-1 the day after that. And it really, at that point in the season, when the Dozier walk-off, before that game, we were 44-41. And I mean, this is silly, but had we have won 2 of those last 3 games in Minnesota, we're talking about a team that's 46-43 at the break, with a home series against Baltimore, who was good, and a home series against Seattle, who was not that good. I think that was kind of a dagger, yeah. Right, because after that we struggled, and then it was time we had to be sellers. Yeah. Maya is still out there. Godspeed. Okay, well, Canna hasn't killed us yet tonight, and there's a chance this will be his last at-bat, so hold on to your butts. I feel like you're lying. Everyone always pulls my leg with that stuff. They mentioned you on the Yak today. They did this. Okay. The problem is I believe it because I would believe it with Nick. Nick would be the only one who'd be like cool enough to like reference me in some capacity. But
So it is a ball and 2 strikes. Canna evidently did take a strike on the first pitch. Borderline pitch was called a strike by Rob Drake.
Yeah, I thought it was outside. I did too. Yeah.
Once you foul away.
Torque just got a piece of that out of another good splitter.
well, good for him. Nick's a dear boy.
1-2. And the Tigers hang on. Both bullpens 30 feet out. Giants
2-1,
Tigers
bottom of the 8th right now. Maeda's still out there.
2-2.
There's the hit for Canna. Okay, well, at least it was a single.
As is
That's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
that ballpark he knows very well from growing up in the area.
And he swung the bat in his career very well here too. That might have been another reason why they went out and got him. He's got very good numbers here at Oracle Park.
He's on wisely the batter. Jacks a ball foot first.
Easy.
Play for one.
I think he was trying to run for a base hit. I think it looked like he was trying to take it with him.
What did he say? Can you clip it? I don't know how it is when it's on pay-per-view. Can you clip it and send it with me? Do you admit yourself to a mental hospital if Dork, I take it you mean Torque, comes back and is somehow worse? You can't do worse. My expectations are already low. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not going to have a mental breakdown. I think you guys have seen me have enough of those. To me, I don't have any expectation that Torque will be really good and bounce back. So I'm just kind of whatever with it right now. Wildly disappointed with the way he performed this season. Fuck. It's fucking dribbler, man. That's the second time in 2 innings they've had a fucking you see, I'm not even saying this because Maeda's still out there. This is where you got to bring Foley into this game because you need a ground ball here. I don't know. He's probably thinking with Maeda, you get the strikeout here, and then you bring in Foley to try to get the double play next time through the order. This is the number 9 hitter. Right, this guy's been better against he's been better against right-handers, but Foley, if it's a switch hitter, that means he'll be left if you put in Foley. Foley isn't good against lefties, so that's the chess match of baseball, my friends. Are you going infield in here, or are you conceding the run? And nothing can be that bad. It was only a 2-0 lead, so we haven't had any fly balls bounce off of anybody's face, so. Vlade couldn't have done that last night. Fuck. He did. Yeah, I thought that was a base hit when he hit it.
Two sack flies for the Giants tonight. The only runs for San Francisco.
You can tell he's losing it here. I mean,
even as a right-hander against Foley. Typically, AJ Hinch.
no, you're not putting Shelby Miller in this game. You're not putting Shelby Miller in a tie game. Okay. You guys, I have been shit on consistently for being about as big an AJ Hinch defender as anybody. Okay. If you put Shelby Miller in this game, then the shit is going to hit the fan. Good pitch. Love Scott. Yeah. Been a minute since I've talked to him. You know, a few years back, I was on in a Tigers. I haven't used Discord forever, but a Tigers fan Discord, and he was on it. We'd known each other for a few years. We met when he was at Central. But I love Scott. He did a great job, building his own kind of personal brand, and I think he's done an excellent job with Locked On Tigers. I was really happy when he got that gig. So yeah, always try to support his stuff. He does a really good job. And that's, I gotta say, man, having done Locked On Tigers for, now I did it during COVID, but having done that show, man, it is, even for people like me who love baseball, dude, it is hard to do a fucking 30-minute show 5 days a week about one baseball team. Ever think about drinking again, staying so? Yeah, I again, everyone's situation is different, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But I don't share the belief that some people share of like, oh, well, at a certain point, the temptation goes away. No. It's in my head every day. It's something I think about in some capacity every day. On a day like today, the feeling, that's a strike. A day like today, the feelings weren't very strong, but there's some days where it's a lot tougher. Yeah. Even, there's days where you miss it. Yeah, I don't know. Come on, you got to attack here. Don't get behind to this fucking guy. Come on. You walk this fucking guy, you turn this, I mean, it's a high leverage inning, but you turn this into a more stressful inning. Don't put a fucking runner in scoring position because you can't throw a strike. And this is their number. So who's Chapman next? Ramos. I mean, I'd say Faedo, but they're probably going to use Faedo for the bullpen day tomorrow, right? I would use Foley for another inning after this. You have to. You have to. Don't fuck around. I don't need any kibitzing. All right, good job. Call it. Good work. That's true. He's yes. Do I smoke weed? I haven't in a long time. Yeah, I think I said that in my last video where we're still trying to figure out what his role is because it seems like he might. Every time we try to extend him into that really like super long relief guy, he struggles a bit. But first time through the order, he's been great. He was good tonight. I'm not like he was 2 runs. You know, at a certain point, I understand it's a bullpen day. At a certain point, you got to put some of this on the offense, man. We got to get some fucking runs on the board.
So low. Love your mind. Let's see how far we can go.
Some weird stuff tonight. Our T-Mobile coverage had 3 errors against the catcher, Kurt Casale. Here's one on a throw to third on Baez. Airmail, just for good measure. Now blind address at the plate. That is his.
Who's due up here? Name one redeeming quality about Chris Illich. Okay, this won't bring anyone any comfort in regards to the baseball team, but there's certain owners in sports history who double up because they're not only terrible owners but abysmal people. I get no impression that Chris Illich is a bad human being, or that he treats people poorly. I think his biggest issue is just that he owns a baseball team. He's not really good at owning a baseball team. That's a big issue. That's it. Time for a Bly Madris legacy moment.
I know, Jason. I just, you know, if I
Baby shark, don't do it.
I gotta have one of these guys. You just want to, yes,
We have somebody out on the field, and that's not good. He's with Conforto on the left field. That's the danger of that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, Conforto's trying to talk about it. That's not the name.
The person just trying to tell, we're not going to show it because we don't want to encourage this kind of behavior, but I will tell you that what Parker Meadows did the other night in Seattle in robbing a home run, this person was unable to do, trying to climb back into the stands out in left field.
That was a face plant.
It was not exactly Parker Meadows like.
Don't know if you mentioned Mize tonight. Do you see him pitching again for the team this season? What do I see for him going forward? Yes, he'll pitch again for the team. He'll be back here at some point. It seems pretty soon. In terms of what I expect, been a weird year for Mize. I don't see us non-tendering him. I think he'll be in the rotation next season, but I just think he's this. He is an average to some days slightly below average, slightly above average at points, major league pitcher with weak strikeout numbers, who will bounce around from team to team for a majority of his career. I think he's shown moments this year that make you feel good about him. But the lack of missing bats is just tough. That really depends on my professional situation. I mean, I'm not in this situation like I was at Barstool where I can just spend the way that I did. Down.
Just to be clear, there is no staircase to get you back into the crowd when you've jumped over the wall in the outfield at any ballpark. This is not back to some more docile fans. This game had plenty of juice. I mean, tie game going into the ninth inning, but it just leveled up now.
Dude, he's been calling it all night, but that's not a strike. No, it's a good pitch, but it's not a strike. It's,
Look at that yellow line that we just showed. Like, how do you follow that?
It still looks like it's just as off the plate.
Three, 4, 5 coming up for the Giants in the home ninth.
Outside.
That's okay.
No, I mean, my whole thing with Torque is get down. Is give him another shot this year to know what you have. But I don't have a ton of faith. Outside. It's a fully will get the ninth then. Yeah. Outside. All right. That's pretty good at bat so far. Was a good at bat. All right, y'all. I'm going to go open a new bottle of Coke Zero and then hopefully we can extend this game.
Over the last 50 years, Michigan has come to know us. Everyone knows about our no-fee guarantee. Everyone knows the Bernstein advantage. Everyone knows it's always a free consultation. And that's why everyone knows 1-800-CALL-SAM is the best call you'll ever make after an accident.
I'm Abe and I'm Al. We're $1 Sales. So you'll get a double family deal on the logbook vehicle.
We buy, sell, and offer top dollar traders. We're stocked with hundreds of cars, trucks, and SUVs. Our team will get you to the right vehicle, guaranteed. Everyone's approved as $1 fan. Come see what's arrived on our lots this week during our spring sales event and drive it home today. Visit $1sales.com or stop by our showrooms in Detroit and Redford.
When it's hot, all you want is some relief. Relief from the heat outside, relief from sleepless nights, and relief from big electric bills. Even your air conditioning unit needs some relief. So when you wrap your home with our premium injection foam, it's like putting your entire house in a cooler. It keeps the hot air out, the cool air in, and your electric bills low. And right now, we foam your walls, we'll insulate your attic for free. USA Insulation. Listen to these results: $100 million, $3 million, $2.7 million, $5.9 million, $2.2 million. That's the Bernstein advantage. 1-800-PAUL7.
Mickey York at the Firewall desk. Tigers Live coming up after the game. It's been another strong effort from the Tigers bullpen tonight. We'll look back at their performance this year. The other offense the Tigers have had tonight has been manufactured with their put together. Hopefully we can get down to it here before it's all said and done. First back to Jason, Dan, and Johnny in San Francisco. Guys, we'll see you after the game.
His whole thing here is attack. When this guy is getting ahead in counts and in the zone, that sinker is a fucking nightmare. Don't be getting behind 3-1 to guys like you've been lately, man. That's a fucking strike. Come on. Outside. Is Ramos fast? Like, would he have reached there? I'm guessing they'll probably give him an error for that. Yeah, he would have gotten him. Settle.
Still got that good sinker baller, Jason Foley out there. Always got one pitch away from that ground ball double play.
What's so weird to me about Foley is that I feel like he has the kind of stuff that should miss bats. That's been called a strike all night. That was probably ball 4.
Doesn't want to try to roll over that. Bill Pete is playing over in the hole, so he's trying to go that other way.
3-2.
Fuck my face. Between Chapman being due up and Canna potentially pending a double play batting this inning. At this point, Fett's big disappointment will come from guys who don't throw strikes. It's the number one most important thing of this philosophy of this coaching staff. And when guys do it, they are very successful. I mean, like, this feels like a 700-foot homer. Or you know, throwing off his dome. AJ seemed upset there. Hey, pre-shot. I mean, this is a good situation to use Shelby Miller, right? Bases loaded, nobody out.
Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now Verizon, get an NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube TV on us. And a great deal on Galaxy Z Fold 6 for a total value of $1,250. Only on Verizon. See you Sunday.
The good news is, things are getting back to normal. The bad news is, your furnace or AC might not be ready for it. I'm Alyssa Angelotti.
And I'm Mark Angelotti. Keeping your guests comfortable means having a system you can rely on.
At Expert Heating and Cooling, we can install a new Carrier home system that can stand up to even extreme temperatures.
Just call 844-EXPERT and the number 1.
And make your home the life of the
I mean, I don't have a ton of faith that he gets Yastrzemski out, but if he does, and we get a Mark Canna walk-off here, fucking chew my dick off. Like fucking Joey Chestnut. Oh, God, dude. Okay, that's a strike. All right. He's going to play up to start, and then he's going to try to finish him. He's got to get 2 strikes here. Win the race to 2 strikes, and then you can tickle the ivories a little bit. All right. Go home. Go home. Go home. All right. Good play. It took him a minute to get to that. He didn't panic there. He did a good job. Hey. Dude, not fucking Canna, please. 2 for 3 career against Shelby. In there. All right, come on. Come on. Trust Jake here. Put that splitty at the bottom of the zone. Bury it. Bounce it. He's setting up down. And away. That's a terrible, fucking terrible 0-2 pitch. I mean, that wasn't Jake's fault. Jake set up away. I mean, he was reaching, dude, throw it here. Terrible command. He got away with one there. All right. That was a slider. In this situation on 0-2, I'm not. Okay, fine. Now I would go splitter here. Back to the slider. Yeah, they're non-competitive pitches. Not a good pitch, but I can't even get on. Like, that's an insane. That was Foley's loss. I mean, Shelby comes in, he gets 2 outs when he needed 3. I don't. Similar to the Ghost Runner situation, it's hard for me to get on a pitcher when he inherits a situation like that.